Yeah, we're good.
Cool.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Welcome, everyone. If you're just tuning in, this is episode 21 with the great Marvin Sewell. We just got through playing a set here, and man, it's great to see you, first of all.
Oh man, it's nice to see you. Great to see you, bro.
Oh, man, thanks for doing this, and
Thanks for
under,
having me.
under all the conditions of everything that's happening at the moment.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, so you, like a few others, just got your first dose of the
Right.
vaccine.
Yeah.
So, anyone out there, before you comment some whack comments, I love everybody that comes on this uh, series, and I care about them more than I care about your negative comments about masks. So, you know what I mean? Like this is about continuing, you know, our livelihoods, and like playing some music in the future.
Right.
And if we got to do this for the moment, this is what we're doing. And yeah, so anyway, man, thank you for being here.
Man,
and
thanks for having me. I appreciate it, man. It's a
oh
great
man,
honor.
it was so fun to play with you again. Like,
Yeah.
I was so happy when you joined the band with Liz Wright in
Mhm.
2005, because I think I had been doing that gig for about 5 months before you came on.
Uh huh.
And I had seen you play with Cassandra Wilson, and I had heard Traveling Miles, and like all that stuff. And
Okay.
so like when Liz was like, "Oh, I got Marvin on this next tour," I was like, "Yes," so I got
Uh
fun.
huh.
Yeah, man. But we got to know each other that summer, 2005.
Yeah.
And I mean, unfortunately, you came on as I was leaving, which
Right.
which
Yeah.
which is funny, because I didn't want to leave that gig. Like,
Yeah. I
I don't know if I ever
remember.
talked to you about it, but like it was just this thing of where you had just joined the band, and I was like, we had played all these gigs, and it was so fun. And
Mhm.
then Josh Redman had asked me to join his band, and
Okay.
I was like, I'm having such a great time playing with Liz and with Marvin, and this
Mhm.
new situation that had come up with the band. Like, I didn't want to leave that, so
Right.
I asked, I just asked, you know, to see if the management could pay me what Josh was going to pay me, and they basically told me I could,
Oh, I
they
dig. I
basically
dig.
told me where I can go.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, all right, I guess they made up my mind for me. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, yeah, it was just one of those things. But
Mhm.
man, I wish I could have continued playing with that. That lineup was like it was so fun, man.
Yeah, it was, man, and yeah, I think it would have really developed into something really, really nice. It was already nice and stuff, that what we were doing and stuff. Because I remember we did a radio show in L.A.
Mhm.
and I
Right.
was I was listening, and I think they did played a little playback on the loudspeakers, and I was listening to the guitars. I said, "Damn, man, shit, this sound better than I thought it did." It's like, God damn, this is actually kind of nice, man. I said,
Yeah.
okay, let's get into this and stuff, and it's because that's how it happens, man. When cats start playing more, and you start learning how everybody flows and stuff.
Right.
It can be magical, and you're an improvising musician and stuff, and even though we're playing behind a singer, we have the capacity to lay the bed down, but at the same time make it different every night
Yeah. Exactly.
and stuff. And that's what I dug about playing with you and stuff. That you had open ears and stuff. And you were doing your thing and stuff. And I think one night we played in Portland, and you did some slide guitar stuff a little bit. I said, "Oh, this damn motherfucker sound good playing that shit too." You know what I mean? But for us,
That's when I was young and naive. If I pulled out a slide while you were on stage, I was like,
no, no, I like to say, man, he has a nice tone, man, and it's very smooth. I said, oh damn, this is nice, man. So
yeah.
yeah,
But that's how we kind of like, at least like really got to know each other a little bit on that
yeah,
vibe, playing. But then after that, I went to see your band
mhm,
a few times. You invited me out, and then you came to see me a few times,
yeah,
and so then it was always like a cool, like,
Yeah,
mutual like
yeah,
respect thing going on.
yeah. I never forgot, man. I heard you play a version of Lush Life at Fat Cat.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it amazed me. I'm like, oh man, this cat actually got some stuff. He got some harmonic and rhythm concept, but he's also a very mature player. And I mean, when I heard you play Lush Life, I actually felt it.
Oh man, well
I was like
shit.
saying, oh, I said, okay, Mike Moreno. I said, yeah,
Oh man.
yeah. So,
Well, you know, uh, yeah. That. Thanks, man.
mm-hmm.
Man, let's talk about you though.
Okay,
Yeah. So tell me about Chicago, man. What was you grew up there?
yeah.
What was the vibe? Were you kind of growing up in the 80s, like or 70s? Where
I grew up in the
I have no idea how old you are, bro. We don't.
I grew up in the 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
You know, I had maybe by the time, damn. I mean, you probably my nephew's age.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not
I'm
I'm not
probably
trying to
older,
say
dude. I'm
anything.
already in my 40s.
My nephews. Are you okay? Just from inference, from seeing your your name on Instagram. Were you born in '78?
Yes. Yeah.
My nephew was born probably before you.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. My father died in '78.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I was so. Oh shit. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good.
Yeah. So I grew up in sort of like the '70s and '80s with music. Like I a f- this guy lived across the street from me. I
Mhm.
try to be brief. This guy lived across the street from me. His name is Wallace Beard.
Okay.
He played bass.
Yeah.
Uh, really good bass player. Did all the Louis Johnson, Larry Graham stuff. All the thumping. Very good at it. So, and he had interesting viewpoints about life and stuff. He had his own. At an early age, this brother had his own worldview.
Mhm.
He kind of like what that saying that Thoreau said about he walked to the beat of a different drummer, and I really looked up to him. So I started whatever he did, I did. So he was playing bass, so I learned how to play bass, and until I started going to the rehearsals, because he played with gospel groups, he played with basement bands and stuff, and I would just tag along, and he was like 3 years older than me, which was during when you a kid, that's a wide range,
Yeah.
So, and I started seeing the guitar players play, and I was like, oh man, that's what I want to do. And I was watching this guitar player named Bay. He played all. He was a rhythm guitar player, and this other cat, Clifton Jenkins, was the lead guitar player. So he had these like R&B bands and stuff and funk bands, and that's what it
Mhm.
had. So I was like interested in like, man, what this cat doing with the chords. So first my cousin bought me a Mel Bay book, and
Mhm.
I was like that. And then I bought some big chord encyclopedia that I had no idea what it was, and I mean I thought I was deep because I knew how to play a 13th chord. Man, this is some deep shit. These are 13th. I didn't know because the book they didn't show you any application. It was just
Right.
C, C7, A flat 13th. It wasn't any applied thing. So what I did, I just started, picking up stuff, listening to the radio and listening to records and seeing how I can learn the chords and stuff like that. I was just trying to figure out. Then I grew up Catholic, and I played with the nuns in church, like
Oh yeah.
acoustic guitars and stuff.
Mhm.
It would be like folk guitar players trying to strum and stuff and figure out, you know, the chords because it was harder than I thought and stuff. I thought it was just going to be C, G, A, E, but it was some other stuff, and
Right.
they were dealing with some inversions and stuff, and I had no idea what that was at the time. And then I met a guy whose grandmother used to own a record shop in the 60s.
Mm.
She had all these leftover records and it was nothing but jazz. said Wynton Kelly. She had like Giant Steps album, Coltrane, Charlie Parker, all this stuff, and it was a revelation. And this cat hit me up to Alan Holdsworth. He said, "You don't know who Alan Holdsworth is?" I said, "No, who's that?" It's because I had heard like Return to Forever, Al Di Meola, John McLaughlin,
Right.
but I didn't know who Al Holdsworth was, or Bill Bruford and stuff. And
Mhm.
when I heard that, I was like, so I started getting exposed to it and started, listening to some of those Charlie Parker live recordings and stuff with Fats Navarro and all of that stuff, and it was just a wealth of stuff. And then in the meanwhile, the Chicago blues scene,
Right.
you're hearing like old grandfathers playing Muddy Waters on a big box.
Right.
And so, oh man, that old man, listening to that old man's music and stuff, and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. And then I played with a college big band when I was in high school, with Malcolm X College Big Band. So I started learning about stuff like learning how to comp like Freddie Green.
Yeah, yeah.
Cats told me, that you should listen. If you want to learn how to comp, you should listen to Cedar Walton and stuff like that. That cat can comp, and so
Yeah.
it just kind of grew, because there was a lot of things being thrown at me. The folk music thing, playing funk and rhythm guitar, and then I was trying to learn jazz, and
Well,
you
yeah,
know,
for me, like all the kind of different stuff that you're into, it makes so much sense that you grew up in Chicago. Like,
mm,
when I think about it. And then, yeah, you're all, man, you're wearing a White Sox sh- cap and a White Sox mask.
yeah. But these are the White Sox are considered Chicago's other team.
Really?
Chicago is a Cubs town.
Yeah.
The White Sox are Chicago's other team. The only thing people ask me, why don't you make the switch? I say, dude, I've been watching the White Sox since forever. And I said, if Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf were White Sox fans, I'm cool with that.
Yeah. That's kind of like the Mets, I guess, for New York or something like.
Yeah, but it's worse with the Sox.
Really?
I give you an example. The, the newspapers in Chicago will write about a pitcher on the Cubs. He's injured. He's injured for a year, and we don't know if he's coming back next year, and blah blah blah, and this blah 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 blah. Whole article. Last sentence of the article. Oh, by the way, the White Sox are going to the playoffs.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
kind of it's kind of like that.
yeah.
So I'm definitely, man. I think I've. On the other hand, I think I've had a damaged childhood watching the White Sox lose heartbreakers.
Yeah.
And
That's why I stopped watching so much sports, man.
yeah, I had to stop.
Yeah.
My blood pressure was going up. Oh, how can you do this? My
Yeah.
mother, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
I was, even one time I was living in New York and I think the White Sox blew a playoff bid.
Mm-hmm.
I woke up cursing and I said, you know what? You need to leave us alone.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
is that so? We were talking about this at dinner.
Yeah.
Like, you were telling me that. I mean, like me in a way. Like, baseball was my life before music, and you said the same for you.
Uh-huh.
And then, so, at what point? Well, how old were you when you were like decided that baseball wasn't going to be the path, and that music was going to be the path?
When I was in high school and I didn't make the team.
Oh, yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And
It's funny. It's the same thing happened to me. I don't think I feel like I didn't. I can't. It's hard for me to remember, but I feel like I tried out for my high school team.
Uh-huh.
Before I went to a performing arts high school. I went to this other high school that my brother went to, and that my dad really wanted me to go to.
Uh-huh.
And it was a big sports team. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't make the team there, and so then it was like the same thing. It was just like, yeah, man, it's just like.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do music.
Right. Yeah. 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 I got really serious about music from a conversation from this older guitar player.
Hmm.
I I think I was in my freshman year in high school, and me and this cat named Mike Smith. He's now a legendary house artist from Chicago. His stage name is Adonis.
Mm.
We went over to this guitar player's house named York. This cat could, he was a left-handed cat. He can play anything. But he would sit up there and like play these Pat Martino solos, and he was like, "Man, I don't understand this shit. I don't like jazz.
Yeah.
I don't understand." He would, but he was more into like some of the funk and soul and Hendrix and all of that stuff. And he sat down and read us the riot act about y'all need to get serious about playing this music if you want to be playing it and stuff. And he would play these albums of these like young cats just like tearing it up.
Yeah.
And we were scared. I mean, I was like, and I didn't know what I was doing, and so I went home on some raggedy acoustic guitar, just playing some repetitive finger pattern, trying to get my chops up because I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I didn't have a teacher. I couldn't afford a teacher. My folks didn't want me necessarily in playing music and stuff. I mean, I wanted to study at this guitarist Jack Cicchini. He had a guitar store, and plus he had guitar teachers that were amazing, including him. He was great, and he had all these teachers there. But I couldn't, I was, grew up. I wasn't we weren't poor, but we was a working class family and stuff,
Right.
and they were going to have the luxury. They didn't have the luxury to give me pay for guitar lessons. And like 2 months later, I said, "Oh, I don't want to do it anymore."
Right.
You know, but but I was actually serious about it. So
But were you buying records? Like, were you listening? Were you learning from stuff? Just
yeah,
yeah.
that's what I was doing. I was learning from the source that really helped me is that I would go to the library and just take albums out. I would like go to the library and take out the Charlie Parker records and Dexter Gordon. I remember I took out this record, this duet record with what's the blind piano player from Italy? Tete Matullo.
Oh wow, I don't even know.
Him and George Coleman did a record together.
Oh okay.
It's killing, and George
Oh, I
Coleman
gotta
is
hear
just
that.
like playing so much stuff on there. I mean, I think it was on maybe it was on Steeplechase
Mhm.
and stuff. And I used to take that. I used to like renew.
Oh, they had steeplechase records at the
Yeah, I mean
library.
they had all sorts of great albums at the library, and plus my friend had this record collection that his grandmother had because she had a record store. Like I, the first time I heard Stan Getz was on a Stanley Clarke record. Like that Stanley Clarke, I want to play for you. And when I heard his sound, I said, "Damn, who is that?" And then my friend had a Stan Getz album with Jimmy Rainey,
Mm.
and that's how I heard Jimmy Rainey. And then that transferred into, I had already knew about Wes, and and then Charlie Christian. Then I started learning about Tal Follow
Mhm.
and stuff
But
like
you're
that.
still in high school at this point.
I was still in high school, and I was like, man, who are all these cats? And then I used to go to American Conservatory when I was in high school and sit in the class like Willie Pickens, piano player, used to teach a class there, improvisation class, and that's how I learned what the diminished scale was.
Mm.
And I thought I had discovered like the keys to music and life. I said,
Is he related to Harry Pickens?
he's related to Bethany Pickens is his daughter.
Okay.
I don't
'Cause
know
Harry
who.
Pickens is a piano player from Chicago that played with Out of the Blue. Do you know that group that was on Blue Note?
Yeah, I don't think that's no
Okay.
no. This is Willie Pickens. I think yeah Willie Pickens. I think it's his daughter that plays Bethany Pickens.
Okay.
So I was sitting in classes with him, learning. I was just trying to get knowledge wherever I can. Go to the library. You know, some friends of mine had these tape recorders for the school, for like the school of the blind and stuff, and you were able to slow the tape down an octave and another lever that slowed it down an octave and a fifth.
Whoa.
So that's how I would learn solos and stuff. Like I remember I had learned a couple of George Benson solos and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and maybe some Cannonball Adderley solos. I would just, even if I had it, a book that had it transcribed, I would slow it down and try to practice it and stuff
Right,
like
right.
that, and just figure out stuff, or just and playing at the college. I was just trying to just pick up whatever I can,
Right, right, right.
just do whatever I can,
But you went to Roosevelt University, right?
Yeah, I went to Roosevelt University, and I started gaining a lot of knowledge about classical music from there.
Mm.
Like really applied, like
You might need to pull this a little
oh,
bit. Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all good.
I learned a lot. I learned a lot about music from my piano teacher.
Okay. I think
Uh,
I remember you telling me about this, like
yeah,
when we.
Felix Gans.
Mm-hmm.
He's the nephew of the great Rudolph Gans.
Okay.
So Rudolph Gans was a great pianist. In fact, Rudolph Gans wrote this great exercise book for piano that a lot of people don't know about. And it's like for playing more contemporary music. He does all this bitonal
Mm-hmm.
exercises and mirror exercises and stuff. It's really interesting. But Rudolph Gans, Maurice Ravel, his famous piece Gaspard de la Nuit, the last movement of that piece is dedicated to Rudolph Gans, because I think Rudolph used to play some of Ravel's music in the States or wherever. I think they had correspondence. But Felix Gans was my teacher. And I was a composition major, so I had to study private piano lesson. He's the guy who exposed me to Brahms,
Mm-hmm.
Bach, like applied, not just knowledge about them, but no, you're gonna have to sit and learn how to play this. And I learned a lot about more about harmony, but
But
also
playing piano.
yeah,
Yeah.
and about melody and about theme development, especially from like Brahms and Brahms, particularly with him. It was for me. It was like Brahms and Scriabin,
Mm-hmm.
like the early Scriabin, like Opus 11, like the 24 Preludes. For Brahms, it was like Opus 116,
Mm-hmm.
1 through 7. I had learned so much from, and I still mess with that Brahms particular opus because it was
But
so much information.
but how did you go? Like they obviously knew that you were studying guitar,
Yeah,
but they were like, no, put the guitar down. We're gonna play piano, or was that your decision
that
to?
was my decision. I don't really want to talk about. Okay, well I should see. Okay, I was studying classical guitar outside of Roosevelt University.
Okay.
I had this one guy that took me up, and I heard him play at this store. And I said, hey man, I want to learn how to do that because I saw all the counterpoint and stuff. He said, are you serious? Are you serious about playing? I said, yeah. He said, yeah, I can tell. He said, your other friend is not serious. But he took me in.
Oh, okay.
He took me in, and to the point where he was teaching me for free.
Wow.
And to the point where I was so grateful for him. This cat was homeless for a minute.
Hmm.
This cat gave me a guitar out of his pocket. He
Wow.
gave me a Yamaha classical guitar.
Mm-hmm.
He said, you should try this one. This one is better, And I learned stuff from him. That's how I got exposed to like the Giuliani exercises for the right hand.
But this is outside of Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Like, where did you meet? But how did you meet that guy?
I met him at a music shop in Chicago called Kagan and Gaines.
Mm.
It used to be downtown Chicago, and then they moved to Des Plaines, Illinois, years later, and stuff. And I heard him playing, and he was actually a bass player, but he played classical guitar. So I said, man, I wanna learn how to do that and stuff, So he had his own compositions that he wrote music, and he was teaching me some things too and stuff, And he was a very encouraging guy and stuff, because sometimes you can be in environments where it's kind of a very negative situation, but he was the total opposite. He I remember he had a folder that had all this music in me. And people, when I was playing with this big band, they used to give me a nickname. He said, Starving Marvin, Starving Marvin. And he told me, he said, what, because he had one of these things. He said, what do you want me to put on your folder? It's your name. I said, no, put Starving Marvin. And he looked at me. He said, how dare you ask me to write such a negative thing? And how dare you think of yourself like that? Starving Marvin. I'm putting Marvin Sewell on here. I was
Wow.
like, this cat is. I need to be around him. I mean, he gave me so many nuggets. He would like tell me stuff like, Marvin, it's okay to be in love, but don't fall in love.
Oh wow.
I was like, I mean, he was much older than me. I mean, but
Right.
he was, and he was always trying to push me forward. And like he like said, look, I want you to get to the point where you're not studying with me anymore, and I have to send you to someone else who's better. But he was also hard on me,
Mm-hmm.
which I had to learn patience and stuff. It's because if I wasn't playing something right, he would tell me, no, you have to do this. And I can, and at that time I was trying to go for the win instead of letting the process take over and trusting it.
Mm-hmm.
It was the same way with my piano teacher, Felix Gans. It was a dangerous feat to go into his lessons unprepared, because he will like
Right.
he I mean he, he didn't BS.
Yeah.
But
He
if you
didn't.
came in
He
there
didn't play.
if you came in there prepared, he would. I remember I was trying to play a Chopin Polonaise, and he said, "Man, it has to feel like a march. It has to feel like a march. It has to feel like." So I'm playing piano. He's sitting at his piano, and from my side vision, he immediately gets up. So I'm still trying to do don da don don da 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 don. I look. He puts on a whole graduation gown and starts marching. Has to feel like a march. Has to, you know. He was very humorous like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But dare not go into a lesson
I'm just realizing
unprepared.
I've never heard you play piano. I don't think it, I can't even remember. I'm trying to think if there was even like. Well, there was never a piano on stage when we were touring because it was
Right.
two guitars.
Yeah.
So unless there was one like backstage or something, but I'm just man. I
Yeah. I
feel like
mean,
I'm missing out on a whole part of your like musical
well, I mean,
uh,
I use
personality.
yeah, but I've just played piano just to study the pieces and stuff. It's because I'm not. I wouldn't consider myself a pianist. I just enjoy the music, and I like to
Hmm.
be. I don't like to be passive about it.
Right.
That particular music, I would love. I just want to be able to at least play it and get through it, because then it gets in my head and I understand. I like to say, oh, I see what's going on, instead of like listening to a record or listening or getting the sheet music. But
Yeah. I just think it's so interesting that you're so far in the classical piano world, but then you can pick up a slide and play the shit out of the blues.
yeah, but that's
It's a whole another animal, but it's like a
yeah, but that's the Chicago had all of that and stuff. I used to go listen to see Johnny Primer play,
hmm
and I had asked him. I said, "Man, can I take lessons with you?" And he said, "Oh man, just come to the checkerboard and just check, listen and stuff." So and I had a guitar player, a friend of mine, cat named Robert Burt Mail,
hmm
and this cat was an incredible guitar player. His uncle was Robert Nighthawk,
mm.
and he basically gave me tips on playing slide. I'll give you a quick story about Robert Mail. One time, me and this other bad guitar player named Harold Smith, we were kids, man.
hmm
We had learned about flat five substitutions, and we thought we had discovered the keys to the universe. So we thought we were the shit. So we played it. We went to this New Year's Eve jam with this guitar player named Cleo and this other cat, Bert, was playing second guitar. Now Bert had big Jerry curl. I think he had a plastic bag on his head or something like that. He had a whole
80s. Is it in the 80s?
yeah
Or?
yeah he
Of
had a
course.
whole line of pedals.
Yeah.
He had fingernails on each hand that went about this high. And me and Harold are looking at this and say, man, this dude cannot possibly
He can't play.
play.
Yeah.
Look at the fingernails. Look at all them pedals. When this cat finished playing, our jaw was on the floor. This cat was playing anything and everything on a high level. He can play like Hendrix. He can play like Holdsworth. He can play like Benson. I eventually went over his house. He can improvise like classical guitar stuff and just
Wait,
play.
what was his name?
Burt Mayo.
Burt Mail. Wow.
God rest his soul, he passed away. I mean, and he passed away like about 20 years ago. This cat was so humble and so nice that he found my phone number. He got it from somebody and called me.
Mm.
Said, hey man, I've been hearing about you, man. Why don't you come over? And and like Chicago, on the west side of Chicago, the way we used to get instruments is trade. It's like if I had a Strat and this cat had a Telecaster and I wanted a Telecaster, we would try to trade. He said, well, what you got to trade? Well, I have this tape deck and I got this and blah, blah, blah. I said, that's what we used to do. Even when I moved to New York,
He's still trying to trade with people.
Bert was still trying to trade with me. Bert would call me and say, hey, man, what's going on? I say, oh, man, this and that and stuff like that, man. How you doing in New York? I said, cool. I said, yeah, okay, yeah. What else happened? I say, blah, blah, blah. You get anything new? I was like, so yeah, man, I got this Telecaster, man, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, man, I got this, blah, blah, blah. He said, you got anything you want to trade? it was always that. Got anything to trade? Yeah, man, I think I might want to do this and blah, blah. And we did a few trades and stuff, you know. I mean, I did that used to do that with a friend of mine in Staten Island, John Purvis.
Mm-hmm.
Me and him been good friends for 30 years. We would trade. I got my first Les Paul from John Purvis.
Wow.
And stuff. I actually, John was cool enough to. He gave me one of the. I have one of the earliest tube screamers, the 808.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had it, and he said, you can take this. I mean, we always used to treat, say, man, okay, I'll let you hold on to this Japanese arch top if you let me hold on to the Les Paul. And we would keep the guitars for a year, and then decide, hey, do you want it back? Yes, no, or, it was kind of always like that. That's how, in the beginning, I got instruments.
Right.
So.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, so it was kind of definitely.
But when you moved to New York, that was around 1990. What was it?
Yeah,
what was the year?
I moved to New York in May of 1990. I first came to New York in '89.
Okay.
I was here for 2 weeks. It was like hanging out till like 4, 5 in the morning every night for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Hanging out because the Blue Note, they had those jam sessions. You had Rodney Kendricks playing piano, Justin Robinson saxophone, and Taurus Mateen playing bass. I used to see Clifford Jordan hanging out there.
Mm-hmm.
Your Brian Israel, who I grew up with in Chicago, he would be playing, and I met a lot of cats there. I met Mark Carey at those sessions. I met Lafayette Harris. Different cats and stuff.
That's cool.
Taurus.
There was no more sessions at the Blue Note when I moved to New York.
Mm-hmm.
That was gone, I guess. Like.
Yeah.
And that was not even 10 years later. That was like maybe 8 or 9 years later.
Yeah, when you moved in 90s.
The end of 97, kind of, yeah.
Yeah. It was something else kind of going on. Like in the early 90s. I don't think it lasted too long after that. I think one of the Moffett brothers took over the sessions for a while and stuff, and and I had just gotten into doing some other things. I was playing a lot in Brooklyn. There was a place in Brooklyn called the Flamingo Lounge.
Mm-hmm.
They used to have jam sessions there every Monday, and they had gigs that was in I guess Crown Heights. Yeah, Mr. Levi owned the spot. A lot of players used to go there and play.
But who were the first cats you worked with when you moved to New York? I know you ended up in Dejanette's band in like '92 or something.
Yeah, I ended up in Jack's band like in late '92, but before that, I was playing with a lot of Chicago cats.
Mm, okay.
One of the first gigs I did, I think,
Chicago cats that were living here.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. One of the first gigs I did was mostly Chicago musicians. I think I played, John Weber played, Lance Bryant played, Uriah Israel, and maybe there was a piano player that probably wasn't from Chicago. So I was doing stuff like that, but at the same time, I had a 9 to 5. I was working at Tower Records.
Oh, you worked there.
Yeah, I worked at Tower Records for 6 years.
Uh, yeah, there was a few cats that worked at Tower.
It
When
man,
I mean,
a
when
heavy alumni.
yeah, exactly.
It's a
Yeah, when I
heavy
moved to New
alumni.
York, I remember just walking in the Tower, and there'd be like, cats I knew that could play were working there.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I mean, the only job I've ever had since moving to New York was at HMV for like 9 months.
Which one on 72nd?
The one on 34th Herald Square.
Oh, dig.
And when
Yeah.
I was working there, it was like me, Carlos Sabati, who now manages Smalls.
Oh, wow.
Who else was working there? Dion Tucker, the trombone player from Miami.
Wow.
And it was also my man who manages Brantford. Do you know who I'm talking about? I forget his name.
I wouldn't know. I'm sorry.
Man, but he's managed Brantford forever. He was working there,
Yeah.
and so it was like a cool little scene. Man, I bought so many records, and I'm sure you did the same. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
for a certain age, if you wanted to buy box sets and
Exactly. Yeah.
and I would take the records home. I would
Mhm.
put them in my bag and go home and I had a CD burner and I would burn the
Yeah.
CDs and then I would take them back to the store and put them back on the shelf the next day.
That is funny. Yeah.
But yeah, I was doing. I mean, but then I kept calling out because I started working. Like I had
Mhm.
gigs and stuff. So one
Yeah.
day the manager, he was like, you've been calling out a lot. He was like, I was like, yeah, I've been playing gigs, and he was like, well, why don't we just call you when we need you? And I was like,
Oh, damn.
cool. And he was like, yeah, and then never called. It was the most casually fired.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, why don't we call you when we need you?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I did tours where I was working at Tower. I had so much vacation time.
Mm-hmm.
When I toured with Jack, I simply took a leave of absence.
Oh, wow.
I
Okay.
took a leave of absence. As soon as I got back from the tour, the next day I went to work.
Wow.
Yeah, jet lag and all. You know, the first look, even the first time when I started working at Tower in May of 1990,
Mm-hmm.
I got hooked up with this Algerian rye music band.
Whoa.
Yeah, we were playing rye music,
Mm-hmm.
and I got a summer tour. So I said, I need to, I don't want to lose my job. I mean, he said, look, you haven't been working here long enough. You just quit, and we'll rehire you. So that's what I did. I went out for the summer, and as soon as the tour was over, they rehired me.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah, I that type of thing, leave of absence, vacation time. I
Right.
mean, I would go to Europe for 2 weeks on vacation time and come back and still have my gig.
That's great.
I kind of had a unique position there because I was a pricer and I was working in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
Me and two other cats were responsible for getting the CDs upstairs. And we had worked out a whole system because they were backlogged. We put
Yeah.
them up to date, so they kind of treated us, gave us some preferential treatment and stuff. They didn't really keep an eye on us, so. But they let me do a lot of stuff until it kind of ran out. When it came time for me to leave to play with Cassandra, they said, no,
Yeah.
and I said, look, I had to tell myself, I say, hey, man, you didn't move to New York to work at
To work
Tower.
it. Yeah.
I
Exactly.
said, just quit
Yeah.
and just continue. That was the last 9 to 5 I had.
Did you watch that Tower Records documentary that was on Netflix?
Yeah.
It was good, right? It was
It
like,
was good,
yeah.
and I've experienced that type of thing of it growing too big.
Mm-hmm.
It's because one great thing about Tower, they had great insurance, they had a retirement program, and also say like if you working in Tower, New York, and you like say, hey man, getting a little tired of New York, I want to check out what it's like to live in Osaka. They
You
would
could
transfer you
transfer.
out there,
That's killing.
and they help you move and all that stuff. I knew
Wow.
a lot of people who transferred to California, transferred to other places.
Mm-hmm.
It
And
was it
now the only one that's left is Tokyo.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the same. I think they might have bought the name or something like
Okay.
that. Yeah, but I met Russ Solomon.
Mm-hmm. Oh, really?
Russ Solomon came downstairs, say, you guys doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're doing a good job. So yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, man, Tower Records introduced me to New York. It's because it was all sorts of people that worked that stepped in there. You had cats who worked in the stock markets. You had gangsters coming there.
Mm-hmm.
You had movie stars. You had porn stars coming in there. You had some of everybody shopping there.
Right.
Like really rich people, people who were down on their luck. You had people who were stealing. I
Yeah.
mean, like elaborate plans. Cat in his wheelchair had a whole empty tray. And he was just.
Wow.
I mean, you had all sorts of people running in and out of there. Man, I met some real interesting folks
Yeah.
at that store and
I
stuff.
could imagine, man. I
Yeah,
mean, I miss that stuff, man.
yeah,
I miss like calling up my friends and be like, "Yo, man, 7:30, man. Let's meet at Tower," or like, "Let's
yeah.
meet at,"
Mhm.
it would be a hang. Like you would go and like
Exactly.
go through checking out music. Everybody would go in their own direction and we'd be checking out music, and then
Mhm.
after like half an hour,
Uh
it's
huh.
like, well, what'd you find? Well, oh, I found this, man. Did you hear this
Yeah.
out, man? Check this out, check this
Yeah.
out. And you pass the headphones or whatever.
Uh huh.
Man, it was a vibe. I mean, that's how my high school. That's like all my high school years was that. We didn't have
Mhm.
Tower Records in Houston,
Okay.
but we had a place called Planet Music, and we had
Dig.
Borders. We had Borders Music,
Oh, okay.
and
Yeah.
both of those, Planet Music and Borders, were happening.
Dig.
They were
Dig.
just as good as, maybe not as good as Tower Records, but very close.
Yeah.
Like really close.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, like basically the same kind of thing, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have some. I don't. Maybe I don't know if I should tell it. I have a very funny story.
Yeah, tell it, man.
Okay. I'm gonna. People have heard me tell this story, but I'm gonna refrain for saying who it is.
Okay.
Anyway, do you know who? What's his name? Ah, too much liquor, bro. I can't remember his name.
I got.
He was a Sufi like singer. Nasfarat.
Oh man, I wouldn't
Allah
know
Khan
anything.
Nasfarat. Sort of a kind of a huge cat.
Mhm.
Anyway, this is when Peter Gabriel's label, I
Mhm.
think First World Records or something like that came out. And this particular record was real popular because it was like this. He was a cat from like maybe the Middle East or Pakistan or something. It was almost like he was scatting it. I mean, it was amazing. Not shoot. But anyway,
Maybe somebody will. I mean, I don't know
yeah.
if they're gonna know in the comments, but.
But anyway, this record was like one of the top sellers.
Uh-huh.
So Tower Records, where I worked in the jazz department.
Right.
But also the jazz department had world music, it had blues, it had
Mhm.
children's music, it had country music, it had folk music. Down the hall was classic, not classic. It was further down the hall was classic, which was another part. But they had soundtracks. They
Yeah.
had a whole vocal section, jazz vocalists and stuff like that. So there was a famous jazz musician walked in the store, and I understand where he was coming from.
Right.
I totally understand where he was coming from. Say this before I like say it. He had played on a record that we had in stock. He picks up the record, goes to the front counter, the
Mm-hmm.
cashier counter. He had his ID and had the record pointing to his name on the record.
Yeah.
And he said, came up, he said, hey man, is this the jazz department? We said, yeah. And he said, well, what is this shit being played? Oh no, what is this shit? You know, man, you might as well be playing some blues and stuff. At least that's coming up. And you know, him and the cat that was working at the register, whoever worked at the register to control what the music
Right.
was playing. And it just got into a big argument. And I knew who he was. And I was like, man, I ain't saying shit. You know, man, he played on like classic records, man.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I was like, oh no. I mean, it got into a stormy argument, and I just kept my mouth shut.
Which tower was this?
West Fourth and Broadway.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. The.
You know, so it got heated and stuff. You know, and I see where you know, I can understand where he was coming from, but at the same time, we were responsible for covering as many bases as we could. You know,
Right.
I mean, you know, with the music, and in this particular record was a top seller, but he was pissed because he said, man, y'all should be playing jazz. And she said, that's why people don't get respect. You know, jazz musicians don't get respect. Blah, 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 blah. You know, it's like going off and yelling and screaming and stuff. And then, you know, it got into an argument. And I'm sitting up there quiet because, man, this is the cat, man. You know,
Right. Right. Yeah.
And then it was.
Oh man, you're gonna have to tell me who it is after the interview.
It was funny because it ended. He looks at me.
Right.
And he says, I think you know what I'm talking about. I was like,
Oh shit.
I was just like speechless. I said, man, I ain't saying. I mean, because I'm thinking, you know, I'm not going to ruin. Yeah, I was like saying, man, I just got here. I'm going to ruin my reputation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cat. You know, I mean, you know, he's like, I mean, but it was hilarious. I mean, we would. Yeah, it's like Tower Records had basically was, for me, it's like a introduction to New York 101.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
all sorts of people ran through there and stuff. You know, yeah,
Man, that's crazy.
yeah.
So, did you tour? Were you touring with Jack? Like, so you? Well, yeah. You said you took time off to do that.
Yeah, what happened? I'll be brief. I had by 1992. I had met Lonnie Plaxico.
Mm-hmm.
We did some gigs together, and he found out that I was from Chicago.
Is Lonnie from Chicago?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, because the bass player, the guy who I told you about who was in house music,
Mm-hmm.
he was a bass player, and he studied with Lonnie. But I had never met Lonnie in Chicago.
Yeah.
So I met Lonnie in New York, and Lonnie was like saying, why haven't I met you yet? I said, I don't know. So we would do gigs. Been on a couple of gigs
with his
him.
band.
Not with his band. I think one of the first gigs I did with him was his vibraphone with Cecilia Smith.
Mm-hmm.
I think she was playing. I think Gene Jackson was on drums and myself and stuff. So I'm, you know, it's cool. So I'm at home minding my own business. Lonnie calls me. He didn't even say hi. I said, pick up the phone. Jack looking for a guitar player. And I just got scared. I was like, what? Jack looking for a guitar player, and I want you to do it. I said, no, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. I said, man, look, I'm going to take his number down and call him. I told him about you. Call him. So I called him and said, Mr. Dejanet, hey, no, Lonnie,
Yeah.
And, you know, Jack said, yeah, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
I'll call you back. I said, okay. Maybe a half hour later, Lonnie calls me. Did Jack call you? I said, no. Okay, hold on. Hung up the phone. I guess he called Jack.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jack called me, and he was kind of lackadaisical. Yeah, you know, we look for a guitar player and blah, blah, blah. I said, yeah, okay, you know. Cool. So I'm like saying, man, I don't know and stuff, you know. But a little backstory. A year before that, I had sent Gary Thomas a tape of me playing. I said, man, I always liked your music. I was wondering if can I send you a tape of me playing and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
You know, would you, check it out? He said, sure. I had never heard from him.
Right.
It had been a year, so whatever. So Jack told me, say, man, I'm auditioning other cats and stuff. So we'll set up a time. You learn this music. He'll give you a list of music to learn and
Mm-hmm.
come to audition and see what you like. And he said, and by the way, send me something. I want to hear what you're doing. So I sent him something and stuff, and I recorded some stuff. You know, and so it was cool and stuff. And I didn't think anything of it. And then there was a conversation that Jack and Gary Thomas had, and Jack had mentioned, yeah, Lonnie got this cat named Marvin Sewell want to audition, and I heard that Gary said, oh yeah, you should check him out.
Mm-hmm.
You should check him out. He's a good player. Then Jack got interested. Then he started calling me. Oh yeah, Gary said he liked what you did. And I said it shit made me like even more nervous. It's
Right.
because I mean Jack wasn't on my radar.
Right.
I thought that was like something other stuff. I was trying to like hang out with M Bass, play with Jerry Allen and
Mm-hmm.
do all the angular stuff and Cassandra Wilson actually, you know. And so when I finally got a chance to audition, I was so nervous that I was putting the wrong inputs and stuff. I was like, why can't I was so nervous and I was, and I saw this look that Lonnie had on his face. Said, man, you fucking fuck up. It was like a look like that. But after a while, I just said, fuck it. I just got more loose and we started playing and stuff like that, and I started getting into it. Because Jack was very, warm and welcoming and stuff like that. And and all of a sudden, I get a call from Lonnie, like on the answer machine, say, Marvin, call me. And I called him and said, man, Jack wants you in the band. He loves you.
Oh, kill him.
He said, man, he thinks that you the next shit. He said he loves you, and he said he also likes the fact that you're from Chicago. And he that's all he's talking. That's all he's talking about is you. He said,
Wow.
and I did a couple of gigs with him, like one-off gigs. I think we did a gig in North Carolina and maybe did a gig in the Midwest, like Cleveland. And he really gave me some good advice. It's because I was nervous. Man, I'm sitting up there have to solo after Gary Thomas
Mm-hmm.
and Mike Cain.
Yeah.
And then playing with with Jack, and he's doing all of this other stuff, man, and just the things that he was suggesting to me and just telling me stuff, it kind of made me a lot more comfortable.
Well, what was he saying?
He Because like when one time when the first gig I did, I wasn't really facing the audience. I
Mm-hmm.
was like kind of facing sort of Gary and just trying to have an eye.
Mm-hmm.
And Jack noticed that when I was watching him soloing, and he would be playing, and he would like look up and go back to
Mm-hmm.
playing, and look up and go back to playing. He saw that I noticed that, so we
Mm-hmm.
was on a plane. We sat by each other on a plane. He said, "Look, I noticed how you out on the stand, how you not facing the audience and stuff." He said, man, when I play, man, I try to connect with people in the audience
Mm-hmm.
and feel their energy and exchange that energy. He said, that might be a thing that you might consider. He said, like, he says, it's only a suggestion.
Right.
It wasn't this autocratic thing. He said, it's only a suggestion. Just
Yeah.
try to connect,
Right. Right. Right.
not just with us, but with the environment and stuff. And I tried it, and it worked.
Mm.
And it was like a major difference from the next gig. He one time he told me something else that really tripped me up when I was touring. We were in either Czechoslovakia, I think it was in Czechoslovakia and Prague, and I was telling him, I said, man, I'm not, the stuff that's in my head is not coming out on an instrument and stuff, blah, blah, blah. He said, no, man, but you doing this and blah, 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 blah. I said, yeah, but it's not coming out my head. what I'm playing is not coming out what I want. And he said this that was, for me, was profound. He said, but look what came out. I'm sorry, but he said, look what
Yeah.
came out. And basically, he was telling my message, the message was for me, he said, you need to be present with what's going on at the moment and not what your expectation was. You have to go with what's there.
Yeah.
And he said, you got to listen to what's coming out. You got to listen to what you're doing so you can be able to hear it, and stuff like that. And I remember, and we did played a blues, and he had taped the concert. He said, man, you need to listen to what you're doing. And I put on the headphones, I listened to it. I said, without an ego, I was like saying, oh, damn, I actually sound like I'm doing some shit.
Mm-hmm.
And, so he was teaching me how to be present in the music. It's like, I don't know what was going on with the Charles Lloyd group with Cecil McBee or Ron McClure and Jack and Keith Jarrett and Charles. But I know one thing between Charles and Jack, those are some of the greatest listeners of music that I have ever worked with. They listen to everything you do and respond to it. Especially when I first played with Jack. The same thing with Charles. Charles is always listening, checking out. Oh, you did this last night, and blah 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 blah. I mean, he like really.
It's
break
funny that you
down
say that
stuff.
because I was watching some videos of you at Porgy and Bess in Vienna with that band with Julian.
Yeah.
Is it Harlan playing? Who's playing drums
Yeah.
on that? Yeah. And Reuben Rogers.
Yeah.
And Charles, is just there like, and he's responding to everything. Like he's listening. He's like, oh, yeah. And it's like you hear him, actually hear him and see him reacting to everything. And it's like, yeah. But just he's like it's like intense listening.
Yeah.
He doesn't walk off stage and go backstage,
Right.
like some other cats do. But like,
I remember that gig. That was a rough night for me on so many levels. But
it's funny. The last time I was at Porgy and Bess, I was really sick, and that's the one night I was like, if I had COVID, it was in Vienna at Porgy and Bess, man. That was like 2020, like February.
Yeah.
February 1st, 2020. Like because I just played in went to China, Korea, then to LA, then to Spain, and then to Vienna.
Yeah.
And then when I got to Vienna, man, I was like in bed with a fever, like everything, and I was like, man, who knows?
Man, this is the roughest thing to be sick on the road.
Yeah, it's really rough.
Yeah. Man.
I was never sick with when we were touring together, but there's been some others, man. There's some nightmare, like food poisoning stories.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh God, I remember my worst, like, but also kind of like epic memory of being on the road was with Joshua Redmond's band, where everyone had food poisoning. We all got food poisoning in Barcelona, and then had 5 more gigs in a row in different cities, on the bus, pulling over like every 20 minutes so somebody could throw up or do everything else you can imagine. Like, oh man, it was so rough.
Yeah, a bunch of band members with Cassandra's band ran into food poisoning in Seoul, Korea.
Really, in Seoul?
Yeah. I think to a point where a couple of cats had to stay there.
Oh wow.
To recover or do something. Yeah, it was bad. I didn't catch it, but a lot of cats did. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the worst, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I still remember, Josh used to start off every show with a saxophone introduction.
Yeah.
And it, like, 5 minutes, like effects and everything. And I just remember we were all backstage. It was in Madrid. And it was the next night after we had really got food poisoning. And we were all, like, I was laying down.
Yeah.
Like, I was backstage just, like, totally, like, laying down and, like, pale, green. And Sam also looked like he was like a zombie. He was like, just looked horrible, man.
Wow.
And Josh was like white. He's light skinned, but now he's white.
Wow.
It's like, and then so we kind of all walked out, and Paul Booth was the sound that we were talking about Paul earlier.
Yeah.
Paul was like, man, you guys look fucking terrible, man. Because
Wow.
Paul was fine. He
Mhm.
didn't have the same food that we all have.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we go out on stage, and Josh, it's packed. It's a
Yeah.
super
Yeah.
beautiful theater, and Josh he's like really pale, and he puts the horn to his mouth. It's like, and it's like no note. There's no note comes out. It's just like air. And then he pulls the horn out of his lap, and he looks at us, and he just starts laughing, and we start laughing,
Mhm.
and it was like, oh, after that it was cool, but we were just like, man, it was rough.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, that's the worst, man. Food poisoning on the road is
Yeah.
and then having to trying to get through a whole set of music
Yeah.
where you think you're gonna throw up and all that kind of stuff. It's like,
Man. Yeah.
and it's happened to me at least 3 times, in the past like 16 years or whatever touring.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
like,
a lot, man.
the worst was also that was the worst that night in Madrid, and then also in Tel Aviv. I got food poisoning playing with Kendrick's band,
Uh-huh.
and it was 120 degrees outside. We were playing at the Red Sea Jazz Festival.
Oh, yeah.
You ever played there with Cassandra or anybody?
Oh,
Man.
Yeah, no.
You're in an oven, man. It's the
Uh-huh.
hottest you will ever be outside of there's no sun out, but it's like you're in front of the oven with a door
Wow.
open or something.
Yeah.
It's so hot. And then I had a fever, and I was like, and I remember I came from the hotel late. I came on my own, and I went into the dressing room, and everybody turned around, and the band looked at me, and Kendrick was like, bro, he was like, you look bad, man. He was like, if you don't want to play, don't play. And I was like, man, we flew all the way over here.
Yeah.
I'm not going to like miss the gig. I'm
Right.
here.
Yeah.
He was like, okay. And I was like, look, I'm going to sit down. And, it was like, if I have to leave the stage, I'll just leave the stage. He was like, yeah, if you got to leave, leave. But he was like, but also, he was like, you look bad, man.
Wow. Yeah.
He was like, I don't think you should play.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I got
Wow.
through the gig. I don't know how I did it, but I mean,
Yeah.
as soon as it was done, as soon as it was over, I like ran off stage. Somebody else got all my stuff,
Oh, yeah.
my pedals and everything, and I just went in the van and I went to the hotel, and it was like
Yeah. Yeah. The only one time I've been sick on the road, not food poisoning, but when I did when I did a State Department tour of Eastern Africa, I was in Madagascar,
yeah.
and my doctor told me don't eat this, don't drink that, don't drink this. I had a glass of wine. We went into the hood.
Mm-hmm.
We was at somebody's house. They was actually playing Kenny Barron's music. She was a DJ. I got relaxed. They had smoked fish. I started eating smoked fish and wine, and the next day I was in the bathroom.
Yeah.
I was in the bathroom all day.
Wow.
I had to take these sort of pills to stop the diarrhea, and I mean, it's sorry to get descriptive, but it was like, but I've like had like cold like symptoms and flu like symptoms on the road. It's horrible, man.
No, it's the worst, man.
Yeah, yeah.
So those are the cats you were playing, like Lonnie, Gary Thomas.
Mike Caine.
Oh, you're Mike Caine too. Okay,
Yeah,
and you played with Osby too. That was my first gig.
I never played with Greg Osby in a group. I
You
played
on his record.
I
right?
played on his records. I think I played on Art Form.
Art Form, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at some of the first, cats you were playing with.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
I played on one of my first records. I played on was Gary's record.
Yeah.
Jack's record. Yeah. Lonnie.
Exiles Gate.
Yeah. I did Exiles Gate. That's when I first met Terry Lynn Carrington.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I met her. We played on that record together.
But in '95 you start playing with Cassandra.
Yeah, my first 2 gigs with Cassandra was in 1995. We played in Reading, Pennsylvania, and Atlantic City.
Okay.
Yeah.
Reading, Pennsylvania. Wow.
Yeah. I remember we did the rehearsal at Jeff Haynes' house. So Brandon Ross couldn't make this particular gig, so I was just sort of like subbing.
That's funny. So Jeff's place in Beacon or
No.
New York?
Jeff used to live on Union Street, right off of what's it, 3rd Avenue,
Mm-hmm.
right by the casket company.
Okay.
He lived right over there. It's sort of, yeah. it's sort of, it was at that time. I don't know if it's still now. It's sort of like a connected neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Jeff, had a spot there, so we used to rehearse there. And Cassandra's music is real interesting. You listen to it, you think it's one thing, and you think, oh, it's a singer,
Mm-hmm.
you know, walk in the park.
No, no, not Cassandra's music.
No, it's it was a lot more than I thought at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So that rehearsal was kind of rough, but I got through it, and I didn't. And the gigs were cool. Those first two gigs were cool, but my gear thing was not happening. As far as like acoustic guitars,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. It just wasn't happening, and and she, I had met Cassandra a couple of years before that, and I actually played on a compilation record with her. We recorded this tune right in her living room and stuff because it was for a compilation record. I think it's called Rock the Vote, and I played on it. And it was cool and stuff. And she invited me over, and she wanted to hear me play. She said, "I want you in my band," and then she changed her mind, so I don't want you in my band.
Was this when she used to live around the corner where me and Glasper used to live
Like on Edgecombe.
on Edgecombe?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but she had moved out by that time. But people were like, Cassandra used to live like right around the corner, and I forgot who was the first person that told me that, but somebody
Yeah.
that used to play with Cassandra.
Yeah, she lived there for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
She had a couple apartments there, but so I went over there and you know and she I heard you know that Cassandra wasn't really too impressed with me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it seemed like he played some strange notes, and then I did those two gigs in Reading, and then the other complaint. So not complaint, it was just a thing. I take back the word complaint.
Mm-hmm.
She said, I like the way he plays, but he needs to get him some better guitars
Yeah.
and stuff. It's because I had an acoustic guitar, but it wasn't happening, and and I I knew I knew like I was used to playing acoustic because I played nylon string and stuff like that, but I didn't know anything about like acoustic instruments and the quality. I knew, I come from the generation Gibson, Fender.
Yeah.
I heard about Martin, but I don't know.
Right.
So
Right.
and she heard from she said, he need to get him some new gear. So um, I said, okay. One time I was on the road with Gary. I tried to George Culligan was on that gig, and
Mm.
he was talking to this drummer, and they were talking about somebody else. And this drummer said, he said, man, the problem with so and so is that he don't love himself enough to get him the right gear
Oh
or
wow.
have him sound good. He wasn't talking about me. He was talking
Yeah.
about somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
But when I heard it, I said, that's you.
Right.
I said, that's you. And I butted in the conversation. I said, man, what were you saying?
Mm-hmm.
And you say, yeah, man, this cat, he bad cat, man, but he doesn't have any gear. He expect the band to pay for his gear or backlining and stuff, and he doesn't even know the equipment. I said, yeah. I said, man, I think that's me. He said, man, it's nothing, man. Just put $50 a month in the bank, man,
Right.
and save up your money and get it.
I
And
think everybody is going. I mean, I remember
yeah,
also feeling the same thing.
yeah,
And I was telling you earlier, like when I
hmm
was playing with Josh, like Paul Booth.
yeah,
After a week at the Blue Note, he was like, bro, he was like, that pedal, that Ibanez like tube screamer, he was like, you need to get rid of that, man. That shit, it sounds terrible.
did,
He
yeah,
was like, you're playing with Joshua Redmond, man. He was
right,
like, why are you using, you need to get some like good stuff. And it wasn't a vintage tube screamer. It
right,
was like from the 70s or 60s,
yeah,
But I had like I got at Guitar Center for like $99 or something.
right, yeah,
And so he was like, man, you need to like you're hitting with the big, the big
Yeah.
boys. He was like, you need to get your sound together.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh shit, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, I started saving my money. The first nice piece of gear I got, I bought a matchless Clubman 35 amp
Mhm.
from the earlier period from the 90s.
Yeah.
And after that, I was being advised to say, man, just get with Cassandra, just get a regular acoustic guitar, man. And I said, hell no. I said, I'm not buying this guitar for her. I'm buying this for me.
Yeah.
The people who really taught me about instruments was that store, Mandolin Brothers.
Oh right.
I would go there, and Stan J said something to me that made me his best. He was my best friend. I walked in that store. He looked at me. He said, "Pick up any instrument you want to play." Because a lot of guitar stores are real guarded. Hey, don't pick that up. He
Right.
said, "Man, play anything you want to play." I played Wes Montgomery's guitar in that place.
Oh wow.
That's when I found my Loudon acoustic guitar.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a killing guitar.
Yeah, they taught me the cats who worked there, who were working there at the time. I think Tom Guana used to work there. He did. He used to repair, and Leroy Aiello fixed up some great guitars for me. I
Mhm.
think John Reynolds. I think he has his own shop. Stan J. These cats educated me about solid tops. Laminated tops on
Mhm.
acoustics and guitar, what to listen for. They were very welcoming. I would go in there and play, and I eventually found the guitar. My When I went in there to buy a guitar, I was trying to find I was looking for a Martin D28.
Mhm.
I saw the Loudon guitar from my side view, and I picked it up and played it because it was a pretty looking guitar. I said, "Damn, this shit sounds good," and I kept playing it. Maybe an hour and a half later, I was still playing it. And they said, "Oh, we'll bring up the D28." I played that D28, and my friend was telling me, John was telling me that keep your eyes on the prize, get the Martin.
Yeah.
I said, hell, no. I kept going back to that Loudon, and
Yeah, man. That you and
yeah,
that guitar has a vibe.
yeah, and that's my main acoustic guitar.
Mhm.
Besides like some, like I have like the standard stuff like a D18 and a double 18 and
Mhm.
stuff, but like especially Loudon sound really good in alternate tunings and stuff. It's just
Yeah.
heaven, and and that's when I got. Once I got that, I got a nice little dobro at the time. I got that, and then I started the following year in '96. I started touring with her,
Mhm.
and my for the most part my equipment game got better and stuff, and I knew what to get and what to listen for and stuff, and not just like going on. I mean, you can, of course, you have to go on your ear, you have to go on the feel
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I guess that's most important.
But
But yeah,
that to me that's whole when I think of Cassandra's band and those records, it's all about the tone.
yeah, yeah,
It's like tone and vibe and space.
yeah, yeah. The word that used to go around with her, textures.
Yeah.
I need to hear the textures and stuff like because it was like on Cassandra's gig. It you could possibly figure out how to play all of those tunes in standard tuning.
Mhm.
You can kind of make it work, maybe detune a little bit, but it wasn't the same
Right.
textural sound, especially when you had to strum something or whatever.
Yeah.
So she wanted that.
But what did she ever say with that? It's just like blues records and like man, she was in the Joni too.
Yeah, she was in the Joni, and she also played guitar,
Yeah.
and she was using alternate tunings back when she was in Mississippi, and she
Mhm.
had some really interesting tunings and stuff like tunings that like laid out as an augmented chord and stuff, and she
Hmm.
would be dealing
Right.
and strumming and all of that stuff. So she was into that, and plus with Brandon Ross.
Yeah, Brandon.
I mean, to me, he's one of my favorite guitar players and stuff. He was one of the best tours that I ever did with Cassandra is when me and Brandon played with her. It was like pure magical playing with him.
Mhm.
It was just amazing and stuff. But
But was
Yeah,
that I saw Cassandra with Brandon. I can't remember if you were on like was it 2005? Was it that? Well,
yeah,
was it before Liz? The summer of 2005.
yeah.
Yeah. So I saw you guys in Belgium for sure.
That's right. You
Yeah.
were with Liz.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you
in
guys
Gent.
were also in Perugia, I think.
Yeah, Solomon Burke played that, was on that festival. I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
I do remember.
That was a crazy night. That was a crazy
Yeah.
night. But yeah, you guys played. I remember my volume pedal had broke that night, and I ended up using like some. They found me some kind of volume pedal
Oh
that
yeah.
night. Like the back, the festival guys like
Yeah.
had this old like volume pedal. But yeah, and then I remember we watched you guys, and I was like, well, at the time, I mean, that was kind of what Liz was going for.
Yeah.
I mean, she gave me those records. She
Oh,
was
did.
like, check this out. Check
Mhm.
this record out. She gave me like
Yeah.
what is that? New Moon Daughter.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a classic record
yeah,
with Brandon and Kevin Bright.
exactly.
That
It's the
stuff is
ultimate
amazing.
like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I learned a lot.
Craig Street.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
when I met Craig, I actually walked into Matt Humanoff Guitars once, and
Mhm.
Craig Street was there,
Oh, okay.
and I was like, Craig, man, I love your records,
Uh-huh.
and I mentioned that record,
Mhm.
and I was like, man, that's like my favorite sounding record, pretty
Yeah.
much ever. And he was like, "Oh man, all I did was push record." I was like, "Bullshit." I was like, "Man, I guess like there's a lot of people who have pushed record before, and it doesn't
Yeah.
sound like that. Like
Did.
even with those cats, it's like
Yeah.
with Cassandra and everything. There's something.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but the thing that I love about Cassandra is that she, like when I first started touring with her in
Mm-hmm.
'96, it was sort of I mean, because there was a lot of pressure on me and Anthony Peterson,
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
she had just won a Grammy. Brandon and Kevin weren't playing with her, so she got me and Anthony. So there
Yeah.
was a lot of pressure on us to learn the tunes
Yeah.
and stuff. And thank God for Lonnie Plaxico. It's because I was trying to learn the tunes and I was sort of like BSing. And he laid the law down on me to the point where I was like, I can't stand this motherfucker.
Yeah.
It's smart. But he was being a friend.
Yeah.
He told me, said, man, you need to look at this shit and do it and come back here and get this shit right, because what you're doing is not happening.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to hear that. And he said something to me, and it was almost like he said it in passing. He said, man, just write the shit out.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? That's what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to write it out. I sat down. I had a tape deck. I sat down on the floor and just wrote everything out. But the problem was, I didn't get any information from them about guitar tunings.
Oh wow.
They didn't pass me anything. So I was trying to listen to, does that sound like an open string?
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
B. I had came up with my own tunings for those
Mm-hmm.
tunes. I got the guitar tunings the end of the tour from the guitar tech.
Yeah, it's
I
completely
said,
different, right?
I said, what's that? He said, oh, these are guitar tunings that Kevin and Brandon were using.
Oh man.
I said, I never got this. I said, let me see what they were doing. I said, oh, I see. But for me, it helped me to figure out my own stuff, is because it got to a point where I knew how to play all of Cassandra's tunes in 3 different guitar tunings. I can go to an open G tuning with a drop C and play all her music, and that go to standard tuning, and then
Mm-hmm.
go to a Vescapole tuning and learn her tuning and know her songs. I would just know it in all of these different tunings and stuff, and I was just like, okay, because I couldn't afford or had the physical strength to be carrying 10 guitars with me
Right.
with 10 different tunings, and they didn't have a guitar tech on all of the tours. So I said, average out with all of these tunings. I said, you'll have this guitar tune in D flat, you'll have this guitar tuning in a G tuning, but you'll have a low C, and sometimes you will double or you take the B string and lower it to G, so you have. I just did all sorts of little stuff, and then you have your
Right.
standard tuning,
Mm-hmm.
and I can work around, and I was able to get get those sounds that she
Yeah.
wanted, the textural stuff. I was able to imitate it without like doing the exact tuning and
So how
stuff.
many guitars? You had 3 guitars?
At one time, when I first toured with her, I had 3 guitars, and they made me and Anthony buy guitars on the road.
Really?
Yeah, I had to get a classical guitar, so I had a Strat, I had my Loudon, I had a Dobro, wooden Dobro by
Mm-hmm.
Dobro, and then I had a Yamaha classical guitar that I bought in Hanover, Germany.
Wow.
So I had all of that, but after a while, after when I just became sort of like the only guitar player in the band, I learned how to manage to play her stuff, just 3 guitars. I knew she wanted acoustic, she wanted slide guitar,
Mm-hmm.
and some electric guitar. And if she needed and some of the stuff that used classical guitar had gone out of the repertoire, she wasn't doing it as much. So I was sort of cool with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I would do, if she did this one tune that was classical guitar, I would play it on electric, but I would mess with the tone and stuff and
Right. Right.
try to get that sound. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. But she,
So were you checking? You were. I remember that case. You used to have a reunion blues case with 2 guitars in it, and
yeah.
then at least when you were traveling with Liz. So then
Hmm.
would you check another guitar and then take that
Yeah,
two guitars on the plane?
yeah. What I, in the early days, man, I still have these like flight cases, man.
Yeah.
The rectangular cases.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I had to get a flight case for a Les Paul. I had to get a flight case for a Strat Telly, and I had to get a flight case for a Dobro, and I had to get a flight case for my Loudon because we were going to Australia, and the tour manager said, "Hey
Oh no
man,
no no Australia,
those cats don't
no
play with
go.
the carry-on, so you need to get you some flight cases and
My
stuff."
my
So I
my
got that.
favorite my favorite line to repeat is this one guy in Sydney.
Oh yeah.
I was playing a duo tour with Gretchen Parlato, and we were
Mhm.
flying from Sydney to Perth. And
Mhm.
the guy at the gate, he was like, "Mate, I have 2 guitars and I have 2 flight cases for both of my guitars." And this is the guy at the fucking gate, working for Qantas, a guitar player,
That was airlines.
telling
Yeah.
me he plays guitar and
Uh
he
huh.
has flight cases for his guitar. And I was looking and I was like, "Why the fuck are you working here then?" In the end, I lost, and I had to check this old, that LG2 Gibson I have,
Uh
like
huh.
1953. I checked it in a soft case
Mhm.
because it was either that or we weren't going to make the gig. And
Yeah.
so, man, I was so nervous. That was a 5-hour flight of just me thinking like, there's no way that guitar is going to make it.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
it was fine, luckily.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole tripped out thing about trap. I mean, because a lot when I was touring with Cassandra, I would just 2 electrics and an acoustic, and I grew up like in the jazz scene because I in Chicago I was playing in the clubs, playing straight ahead standards. Used to play with Charles Earlin. I was
Hmm.
playing semi hollow bodies,
Yeah.
and but my earlier days I was playing Strats and Tellys and stuff. But it's just a whole different feel playing those type of guitars. So I had to learn how to not I didn't know if I really learned, but I had to adjust to playing a Telecaster
Yeah.
in sort of a jazz context, and it was kind of hard. It's because it sounds different. It's a different feel. Like I've seen cats play Telecasters and kill on it,
Hmm.
you know, but it's a different animal. I
Oh, yeah.
don't what I
I
mean?
can't play telly at all.
Yeah, it's a different animal. So I had to adjust and do other stuff. I couldn't do everything on a telly that I like would do on a 335 or an arch top and stuff. And the same is the other case. I mean, so I had to. And Cassandra, she said, I like it when you play Telecasters.
Hmm.
So that's what I would mainly take out on the road. It's my telly,
Hmm.
uh, my Strat, or Les Paul Jr. for slide, and then my Loudon guitar.
Yeah.
Because those two solid bodies would fit in that one case and I'm good to go.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. So.
Man.
Mm,
3. Yeah. But
mm-hmm.
she never had. So she didn't have a. Who was doing sound with her? Was there anyone that was like handling all the instruments, or you had to do everything?
As far as like carrying stuff,
Yeah,
or
yeah. Like I mean, especially checking in flights and stuff like that.
after, at first it was, she had the first tours I did with her, it was guitar tech. It was a
Okay,
guitar tech, and
nice. Then it was cool.
that happened up until 1999. She had a guitar tech, and that was a cat from New York. I think his name was Permy, and she had a cat in the mid 90s from California. But after that,
Hmm. Well, after that, the money went away.
yeah,
That
the
because
kind of the
Jeff
budget.
Haynes, we were talking about Jeff Haynes earlier, and
Yeah,
Jeff was like, "Man, we used to go out with Cassandra for like 3 months, and it's like the gigs paid this every night, and we would
yeah,
come home with like stacks of cash. It's like he
yeah.
was like, that's over, because I mean by that time he was telling me these stories in 2005.
Mhm.
And he was talking about the early '90s playing with Cassandra and stuff like
Oh
that.
yes, yeah, yeah. That was before me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but after that, I was like doing my own gear, tuning my own guitars
Mhm.
and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
yeah, it was interesting, but very educational, man. That was a
Man,
great gig.
that's an incredible gig, man.
Yeah,
That's the gig. Like
yeah.
in my eyes, that's the gig that I would be terrified to ever get called to do.
Yeah,
But good like I mean I would there's no faking it, man.
yeah,
You can't get by even one tune with Cassandra if you don't have your shit together.
yeah. Especially with that, with
Yeah.
during that time, and I really appreciate her a lot. It's because she, just like her and Jack, they allowed me to be myself on that stage.
Mhm.
As long as you know the music, we want you to be creative.
Right.
And that was a big gift. So I really,
Mhm.
you know, appreciate, I really appreciate her for that. I learned a lot just her giving me the opportunity to create with her and
Mhm.
stuff. I couldn't do anything I wanted to do. I had to try to make the music better
Yeah.
and but put myself in it, and that was great.
So I know Jason Moran played some gigs with Cassandra, right? How did you first hook up with Jason? Like, 'cause you play on a couple of his records and.
That's how I met Jason. I first saw Jason play in Brooklyn. He was a special guest in a big band that my friend Jorge Sylvester ran, and he was a special guest at that school in Brooklyn, like on 7th Avenue. I forget the name of it. But anyway, but I officially met Jason in 1998 and was playing with Cassandra. We did some gigs and stuff. Jason came right after. Before Jason, it was Eric Lewis or Elu
Exactly. Yeah, I
on
remember when
piano.
he was doing it. Yeah.
I did a tour or two with Elu, and which was amazing. And then Jason came in around like September of '98
Mhm.
and stuff, and we did a Japanese tour for about 3 weeks.
Okay. Was
Yeah.
you have a funny story? I'm not gonna ask you to repeat it, but you told me some crazy Japanese stories from touring with Cassandra.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that was a year later. That was
Okay.
like in 1999.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
We'll
yeah.
keep that. That's for another.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was kind of crazy. But me and Jason used to me and Jason would hang out outside of the gig.
Mhm.
I go to sumo wrestling.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Man, I love Jason. Jason's into all kinds of
yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah. I mean,
Whose idea was that? Like, let's go see some sumo wrestling.
Jason.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we hang out and play and stuff like that and
Yeah.
do the hit and stuff and I think
And well, Jason's from Houston. I'm from Houston. Just
Did.
for anybody who's, so he went to my high school, and that's really like, me and Glasper
Mm-hmm.
went to school at that high school for performing and visual arts right after Jason Moran and Eric Harlan left. So that
Oh,
was like the
okay.
last two super bad cats that had gone to that school. Like
Yeah.
Jason Moran, Eric Harlan. And so then when me and Glasper got there, and like Walter Smith and Kendrick and Scott and all those guys, we were like, damn, like these guys are already in New York, like playing with Osby, and Jason was playing with Mark Shim and like all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
Yeah, but it was amazing playing with Jason and to hear the amount of maturity that was in his playing.
hmm
I mean, Jason can produce a sound out of the piano like no other. I mean, you just you just hear him hit the notes, and it's like, oh man,
no, it's
you know,
such a vibe and such a
yeah,
sound.
and man, I'd never forget one time we were, I think we played Body and Soul or one of these ballads with Cassandra, and he was he. I mean, it was a level of maturity that was like, I don't want to say it's beyond his age or anything like that and
hmm
stuff, but he just had that, what I call that jazz sound, kind of the mix of new and old at the same
That's
time.
my favorite sound, man. It's
You
like
know,
those cats who have that. It's if you have it's too much on one side to me, I can't get into
yeah,
it. But if it's like, who else I like that has that is Sullivan Fortner. You ever play with him?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. He's amazing.
Sullivan is just like,
Yeah,
how, like, I don't know how you can have so much of either side.
yeah,
It's like, and Jason is that same thing. It's like it's timeless, kind of.
yeah, yeah,
You
and
can't say it's new or old. It just is.
right,
It's just that.
yeah,
It's just that. It's
yeah, yeah. He definitely has his own thing,
hmm
which is great and amazing. And after that, I didn't play much with Jason until like 2004. He started calling me, say, "Hey man, I'm working on this one project and stuff like that. I was just wondering if you might be interested in playing with the bandwagon." I was like, "Say, oh, okay,
yeah.
what you doing?" And I already knew. I've been knowing Taurus and Nashik for years, And I said, "Oh yeah, I know Taurus. Taurus, one of the first people I met
hmm
in New York and stuff, And I knew Nashik from years ago too. I think I met Nashik through Antoine Rooney.
Okay.
So you know, I knew all of those cats back in the day and stuff. We see each other, hang out and stuff, and I said, yeah, let's do this. What y'all doing?
yeah.
So I
So that
got
was
to see.
same mother, right? Like that was a record you guys did when you joined the band.
Yeah, yeah,
Oop, I keep doing
yeah. That was a fun recording and stuff, and trying to get into their world and stuff. It's because it's definitely a world, a
that. Oh
universe
yeah.
to what they do and stuff. And I
Well,
was like, so damn,
when you're joining a trio like that that's been working
yeah,
together already,
yeah,
um, yeah, it's always like
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a fun record and a challenging record at the same time. I mean, there was one tune. It's a, that's I like that. One time I was playing at Yoshi's, and me and Jonathan Baptiste were hanging out,
mm,
and we was sitting in a hotel room just chilling, and he was saying, "Man, I was listening to the same Mother record." I was, and I'm very critical. I said, "Man, I don't know if I play." So we listened to the album.
mm-hmm.
He said, "Man, it ain't like you fucking up." He was like, or something like that. I'm like saying, "Yeah, man, that's actually pretty good." And I love that, the thing we did. I think it's a tune on there called "Lounging" or "Slumming," where
mm-hmm.
I'm playing acoustic guitar and I'm using this ebow and stuff like that. It was very like conceptual and stuff, and then we kind of did like a blues It was sort of a blues based
Did
record.
you?
Hmm.
Yeah. Did you guys play at in Berlin at the A Train in 2005? Right. That kind of spring of 2005.
Yeah, well, you were there, right?
I was there.
Yeah.
That's the first time I saw you with that band. I'm
Hmm.
just remembering. So I was. That's when I was with Liz. That was my first trip to Europe with Liz.
That's right.
And then we had 3 days off in Berlin while Liz was doing some promo stuff in some other cities.
Yeah.
And so the band, me and the other guys in the band were just chilling in
Yeah.
Berlin, and we went to see you and Jason at the A Train.
Yeah.
That was killing.
Oh, thank you, man.
Yeah, man.
That I mean, like this is the same thing what I said about Lonnie, Mike, and Gary and Jack's band. Those cats were like brothers to me, and it was the
Hmm.
same thing with Jason, Taurus, and Nasheed. Those cats really looked out for me and stuff. Campaigned for me, and they, like stuck together. It was cool.
Hmm.
I mean, so it's a special place in my heart for those cats and
Oh
stuff.
man, yeah,
Yeah.
those are the cats. So
Mhm.
when your group though, I remember I've seen your band a couple of times at the Blue Note, also at what is the name of that place? It's like
Arlene's Grocery.
Arline's Grocery. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that record that you guys recorded, what year was that? That was like around 2000.
That
Wow.
record came out in 2005, but I
Okay,
think we
yeah.
recorded it in late 2002.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
how did you end up on that instrumentation, like accordion?
Oh yeah. Yeah, because people were like, "How you gonna have two accordions in your band?"
Yeah.
It's because, well, I don't want to get into that, but
Well.
anyway, I used to play I was on an off Broadway show that cellist composer Deirdre Murray
Hmm.
wrote the music for. Her instrumentation was guitar, bass, drums, violin, cello, and accordion.
Hmm.
The accordion player was Tony Cedrus.
Hmm.
You know who he is?
No.
Tony Cedrus, musician from South Africa, played in Paul Simon's band for
Okay.
many years. He's an incredible musician. Killing accordion player, killing guitar player, killing keyboard player. I think the brother sings too. I mean, he's a
Yeah.
legend.
One of those. Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of those dudes. I think he plays in trumpet.
Okay.
His accordion player used to bring tears to my eyes, just the taste and stuff like that. And like I said, man, I gotta have
Accordion. Yeah.
accordion in my band, and I wanted to use him in my band, but he was so busy he couldn't make it. So I found out I ran into I met Rochelle Gagne, and then I also went checked out Jeff Watt's band, and they had this dude sitting in on accordion, this cat named Joe Barbados, Sonny.
Hmm.
And this cat sounded so good, and I like said, I gotta have him.
Yeah.
So I had a gig at Joe's Pub, my first group there, and as a band leader, and Joe couldn't make one gig, and Rochelle couldn't make the other gig, but they could make one gig. And Joe said, I don't want to do one gig, I want to do both. I said, well, one gig I have two accordions, and they both played so differently.
Right.
I said, hey, I like this sound. Just keep them.
But that's how it happened. Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool.
I said,
So
keep 'em.
it wasn't planned at first. It was just kind of.
No, they sounded so different. They had a whole different approach to playing the instrument. So I said, cool, whatever. Let's do it. And my whole purpose of having that group, I wanted to do something quick and fast. So I wrote the music where you could just look at it and play it
Hmm.
and stuff. I didn't want to get hard and deep about it. I said, hey, this is just gonna be a fun night. Just play the music. But we're gonna make it conceptually interesting and stuff
Yeah.
with the sounds and shit like that. So that's how that came about.
Ah, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah, that's a great record, and it's funny because, um, are you selling the? So it's on iTunes, right? Or is it on Apple Music?
yeah, it's on Apple Music.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's just so tricky now. Like I never know if I'm looking at iTunes or Apple Music when I'm the way like I have my music is only on iTunes.
oh, okay.
So if you're in Apple Music, you can't see it. But if you want,
Oh,
the
okay.
way So I have my iTunes set up, which is if you want to do this now, you have to actually go into preferences and set up your iTunes so that you can
Oh.
see the iTunes store. It's not automatic anymore.
Oh, dig. I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
because they don't want you to buy music. They want you to pay for subscriptions. Yeah, so they don't make it easy to
Oh.
find the iTunes
Okay.
store anymore. So you
Okay.
actually have to go into the settings of iTunes
Mhm.
and go into the preferences and click show iTunes store. And then it comes up.
Oh, I
Then you'll be able to
did.
see it. So then if you don't do that, you'll never find my records. So that's why I was like,
Okay.
when I look up, I never know if it's pulling, because now it just pulls up. I can go in and search in iTunes, or I can search in Apple Music, so I wasn't sure which
Okay.
one it was. But yeah. But anyway, I mean, people should check out that project.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, when I finished the record and listened to it, I was like happy with it.
Yeah, no, it's great, man.
Yeah, I was happy with it. I mean, and I have a lot more other music that's kind of different from that, and eventually I'm gonna try to put some other stuff out.
Hmm.
You know, uh,
Different instrumentation and everything.
yeah, different instrumentation and kind of a different concept
Yeah.
and stuff. I wanna try some other things and yeah. So yeah, but we'll see how it works out and stuff.
Well, when this is all over.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
So I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do next. I
dig.
mean, I was like, well, I can do a record during the quarantine,
Mhm.
or I can do, kind of educational stuff plus live streaming and buy all the stuff I need to do for that.
Right.
And it just didn't seem like, I was like, what's the point of making a record when you can't tour and promote it?
Dig that. Yeah.
I mean, the money coming back to you is going to be super slow. So then I just decided
Yeah.
to do this.
Mhm.
I was
Right.
like, see what happens.
Yeah, man. It's great, man. I think you're a very resourceful cat, man. I mean, to put this together, it's no walk in the park,
No,
man.
it's not easy.
Yeah.
But it's like, just learn as you go kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's like big ups to you, man.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
it's amazing, man.
Man, but it's so cool to like actually have a platform now to invite people on.
Mhm.
Like, you've been over here before, like we've
Yeah.
actually hung, but it's kind of like, oh, I see you, we're at a gig, and it's like, man, let's go hang, have
Right.
some drinks.
Yeah.
But just to have a place to where like, okay, now come over, let's play some music and
Yeah.
make some money, and
Mhm.
like, just the same as usual. But like now, this is
Mhm.
the venue for the moment.
Dig that. Yeah. Yeah.
But in the future, it's gonna be cool just to, you can just do, I mean, basically just like
Right.
anytime you want, just like play a gig and stream it.
Right. Right.
It doesn't have to be up forever. It's just like
Mhm.
it could be and not even up at all. Like just one live stream and then take it down, or like
Yeah.
it's the options are kind of endless. Like with the technology and stuff,
Yeah. Dig
it's
that.
kind of
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. It is. It's quite.
But yeah, man, thanks so much for. I mean, there's so much I can ask you about. You know, but probably one more thing that like
Mhm.
so you play on Landmarks, the Brian Blade record, right? The Fellowship record.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2014.
Mm.
Um, I don't think I ever saw that band play though. Like, did you guys play the Vanguard or any of that stuff?
I never did a live
Okay. Are you
gig
just
with
on a
them.
couple of like?
I think I played on about.
That's a short record. Am I thinking? Oh no, I'm thinking of Stoner Hill.
Yeah.
So no,
Landmarks. I think I played on about 5 tracks.
I think I still haven't heard that record.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That
but you guys didn't tour with that record.
they might have toured as a quint as a quintet, but I never played a gig with Fellowship.
Okay.
I just did the record.
Yeah.
But I did do the Joni Mitchell projects with them that had with Brian and John.
Mhm.
And then a few times they had Melvin on a hit, and one time they had Melvin and Myron on the Joni hits. So I played in that context, and Chris,
Yeah.
but I never played a gig with Fellowship.
Yeah, it's funny. I've done some rehearsals with them, like
Uh-huh.
right when Kurt Rosenwinkel moved to Germany. I
Okay.
think he had moved to Switzerland
Yeah.
first,
Mhm.
and then I did a couple of rehearsals and then I ended up doing like these records with Myron for the
Okay.
same band. It was like a
Dig.
fellowship band, but with me instead of Kurt, but under Myron's name.
Ah.
And they were playing the Vanguard that week, but so
Mhm.
then they were all in town during the day. We did the Myron's record,
Yeah.
and then I did like one kind of gig with them in San Francisco, but it was only because I just happened to be in town. Like I was there
Oh, okay.
recording a record with somebody,
Mhm.
and I called Myron. I was like, "Yo, man, I saw you guys are playing Yoshi's," and then he was like, "Yeah, Blade's right next to me." He was like, "Yo, Mike Moreno's in town." It's like Blade said, "Bring your guitar and play tonight," and I was
Oh,
like, "Oh shit,
killing,
okay."
killing. Yeah.
And so I like quickly learned like some of the tunes off the new record, and
Yeah.
then went down there.
Uh-huh.
But that I never really played a gig with them. I just did a couple of rehearsals and sat in like half of the gig or something like
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
man, that's like my favorite. And, I mean, it's one of my favorite ensembles. Like, and they've used everybody like you, Kurt, Peter Bernstein. It's like all the baddest cats are get to play with that band.
Jeff Parker.
Jeff
Yeah.
Parker, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I got a real good education just being around John and being around Brian.
hmm
I learned a lot even more about, touch subtlety and
yeah.
note choices and stuff like that. They're some of two of the favorite people that I like to play with.
I saw
Yeah.
Blade do some amazing like I've gotten to play my music with Blade a couple of times.
Uh-huh.
Just one tune. So Blade has played two of my tunes, and he would never ever remember that he probably played them.
Mhm.
But each time he played them, it was the first time he had ever seen it. He
Mhm.
read it, and he kind of played something that was so distinctive on those
Uh-huh.
tunes the first time he saw it that
Mhm.
I've asked every drummer to do the same thing on those tunes.
Dig. Yeah.
I don't know how he does it. Like
Yeah.
it's not even. Some of it was just he wouldn't play anything.
Okay.
Like he just like the first time he saw it, he would just look at the chart. He was like, okay, I'm not going to play right there.
Check that
And
out.
then he would lay out and then come in a place, and then I was like, how the fuck did he know to do that? Like that's so killing. Like, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
so then Kendrick did my first record, and so I
Mhm.
said Kendrick, lay out in this part, and he was like,
Yeah.
oh okay, dig.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't have had that idea unless like Blade had done it. It's like so. It was
Right.
random, but that was like on a fellowship rehearsal where Blade was like, "Yeah, let's play one of your tunes," and I pulled out a tune, and then, but yeah, I don't, man, it's another level, man, like that shit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's amazing. I mean, and John is one of my favorite piano players to play
Yeah,
with.
and John is the same way.
I mean, because he plays with Cassandra as well, and it was just like, man, this is really,
He's casually played with like all the killing singers, John Coward.
yeah. I mean, yeah, this is two of my favorite musicians to play with. I played in one of John's groups. So we played like New Orleans stuff. It's called
Yeah.
Cow.
Oh yeah.
So and it's a lot of fun and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But I've done other stuff with John. Working with Cassandra, working with a singer or the Joni projects and
Mhm.
stuff, and it's always him and Brian is always it's been fun and and a learning experience more importantly and stuff.
Right.
It's they just kind of pull stuff out of you and stuff.
Oh
Which
man.
is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, we did like some duo tours, Japan and Europe.
Right.
Me and John, and that's mainly because I love John. I was like, look, are you down to do these gigs? He was like, yeah. I was like, all right, I'm gonna
Yeah.
book all this stuff. And yeah, we went to South America too. But
Mhm.
man, I've learned so much about playing music just from like getting to play with John.
Yeah, I saw that.
He never says anything.
Yeah, I saw that gig you guys
He
did
just
at
plays.
Mesero.
Yeah,
That shit was killing, man.
but he doesn't. He's never once really said anything to me.
Mhm.
He just plays. It's like if he plays a certain way, you can't
Yeah.
react a certain way. So then
Mhm.
it's like I don't think we've ever really talked about music.
Yeah, I guess a lot of
It's
times
just
that's
like
the best thing, man. Like when I started hanging out with Jeff Lee Johnson,
hmm
because you know when I heard him, I said, man, this cat is a god. And he had invited me to play some gigs with him. we hardly ever talked about music.
Yeah.
We never talked about how do you approach a chord or anything
Mhm.
like that. Only one time he talked to me about some equipment. He was saying, "Man, make sure that if you're using this overdrive, make sure that the overdrive sound don't take over the sound of the guitar." I mean, that was basically it. But the fact that I was just in his presence really helped me, man. Because when he had asked me, he said, "Hey, man, do you want to share a stage together?" And I wrote back, I said, "Hell yeah." But I was like, inside, you are too fucking bad.
Right.
I
Yeah.
can't. But somebody had told me, they said, "Look, man, share the stage with him because he's going to make you a better musician."
Mhm.
And I think he did. It's just the energy, him. If he played, if his band played first, I mean, he was playing so much stuff, and I had to get up and say, "Damn, I have to play after that." But it was really cool, and sometimes we played together. It was amazing, but so just being there, I didn't have to ask him about, well, man, how do you approach this tune? It wasn't necessary,
Mhm.
you know. It was just being in a person like that in their presence that really sparked the learning, just in the environment and,
Right.
and stuff, and being in the arena with cats like that, man. You just learn so much. You just pick it up consciously and unconsciously too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Man.
it's amazing. Yeah.
Man.
Hmm.
Well, man, it's so cool to hear you talk about all this stuff.
Yeah, well,
Um,
thank you, man.
man, of course, man.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure playing with you, man. I mean, some of the stuff you do on the guitar and the instrument, it's amazing, but it's music and stuff. So that's the one thing I always appreciated about you is that you playing an instrument, but you playing you, and I hear your voice. You
Oh,
know,
I hope so.
yeah,
But
and
I
you
mean,
know,
I just
you,
mean
you
like
know,
I hope what I'm playing is like coming across.
definitely, man.
Whenever I play with people like you, I get super self-conscious, man, just because it's like so soulful and so musical. Like when you guys play, like certain players and that have played with
Mm-hmm.
all of my hero. I mean, like anyone who plays with Cassandra Wilson to me is like there's on there that's the highest level of like musician. A guitar. If you're a guitar player that plays with Cassandra, that's the highest like
Yeah, well,
level
yeah,
of
thank you.
musicianship
Yeah,
I
it
can think of. Like,
it was Cassandra Wilson is a great gig for a guitar player as long as you immerse yourself into that world and stuff.
right.
You, if you're gonna like try to take shortcuts, then it's not gonna help.
No.
But I was I'm glad that it was rough, but I'm glad that they were hard on me.
Hmm.
They were very critical, and I'm glad that they gave me very little information.
That's the best, man. That's the thing is like a lot of people ask. I sometimes when I'm talking to people, and
Hmm.
especially it's a workshop,
Yeah,
and there's one person that's asking every like question
yeah,
after question. I was like, if you keep asking that many questions, you're never gonna learn how to play.
yeah. Cause like on one thing, I never got the guitar tunings.
Yeah.
I'll be brief because I know we've been long. Like the first European tour I did with Cassandra, we played at this festival in Austria. That's about maybe an hour's drive from Vienna.
Hmm.
It's an outdoor festival. No sound check, line check. You got all these acoustic instruments,
Hmm.
monitors feeding back and shit. It's windy. The rehearsals, you all close together. On the
Right.
stage, you
Stage is
spread
super
out.
far apart.
Monitors sound like hell. Can't hear the shit. Gig was fucked up.
Yeah.
It was fucked up and stuff. So they bring us, they bring me and Anthony into the room. I said, man, y'all, it's not happening.
Right.
Blah 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 blah. So he said, look, y'all got to learn the concept. What is it?
Yeah.
What's the concept? Y'all got to learn it.
Who was saying this?
Lonnie and Cassandra.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Well, what is it?
Yeah.
See, problem is y'all don't know the concept.
Yeah.
What is it?
Exactly. Yeah.
And blah blah blah. And, and y'all, the textures and stuff, and y'all, we had to get. Anthony had to buy a guitar, another guitar on the road. I had to buy a guitar on the road. That conversation at that time pissed me off, but I'm glad they didn't explain it. It's because I figured out what it was,
Mm-hmm.
and I put my own definition to what Cassandra's concept was. So when I became her musical director,
Mm-hmm.
somebody asked me what's basically Cassandra's thing. I was able to lay out what she needed, the type of music she did. I said there's a jazz part of her, there's a blues part of her, there's a rock folk part of her, you know, there's this jazz ballad side of her, there's her own music. I had it mapped out. If she would have told me that, it wouldn't have sunk in my head.
Right.
I had to figure that out myself. And I said, okay. Because me and Anthony at the time, we had to have a meeting. Because me and Anthony used to be roommates. I said, bro, remember we used to be in a room listening to like English folk music and American folk music and all the blues stuff and Brownie McGee and Sonny Terry and all those cats. And then listening to Joe Henderson and listening to, Sonny Greenwich and all these different type of cats and the classical cats. And so, yeah, let's bring that to the stage. Fuck them.
Yeah.
The next gig, you had a proper sound check. We were playing indoors and we tore it up.
Killing.
It's because we decided we're gonna put our thing in this music.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know all this stuff. We can do the little country stuff and all of the other stuff. So that's what we did. So I'm actually glad that they weren't very clear.
Right.
It's because I was like said, okay, this is what I'm gonna do to it and stuff. I used everything that I had that they wanted me to learn, but I kind of enhanced it and figured some stuff out on my own.
Yeah.
And stuff, and I think sometimes that's the best way.
Right. Yeah.
Instead of somebody like spelling it out for you.
Man, before we finish, I got to tell this one story of seeing Cassandra's band and on New Year's Eve at the Blue Note. And I remember, I don't think you were on this. You might have been on the gig. It might have been you and Brandon.
Yeah,
it would have been 2005. Yes,
I was
so
on
you
that,
were on the gig. So I remember because when I was playing, it was New Year's Eve, 2005 into 2006. I had met a girl that worked at the Blue Note.
Okay.
While I was playing with Josh in December of 2005. It was the last gigs I did with Josh.
Yeah.
And I started dating one of the waitresses at the Blue Note. And so she was like, Cassandra's playing New Year's Eve. She was like, do you want to come? I was like, hell yeah. So, I went back, hung out, and Cassandra and you guys were on stage. And and you guys were playing like, it might have been like, what's the name of that song?
Corcovado.
Corcovado.
Yeah.
Was she singing that week? Do you remember? I'm pretty sure it was like that tune.
Yeah.
It was something in that vibe. If it wasn't that.
Yeah, we've done that tune.
Yeah. So it was that. This is the song that Cassandra chose to sing. It was 11:55. And Cassandra says Corcovado, and the waitresses are already bringing around the trays of champagne. And the Blue Note has that rectangular window that you can see onto the West 3rd Street.
Yeah.
And so I was sitting down at a table, next to strangers. I was just, and I was looking at the clock. I was like, it's 11:58, and they just finished like the solo section, or like, and it wasn't even the solo section. It was like it was one. It was beginning the first chorus of like the last solo or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, "There's no way they're gonna finish this tune before midnight."
Yeah.
And it was a ballad. It was like,
I remember that.
and Cassandra was totally in the vibe, like, oh, like, you know. And so they had passed out all the champagne, and then I saw it as the clock hit midnight, and Cassandra had just started singing the melody out. And outside of the rectangular window, you saw people like out on the street, like like it's like going crazy. And then Cassandra, inside of the Blue Note, everybody was like really quietly like cheersing, like with champagne. And then the girl I was seeing, she came over and she was like, "They're not done yet, but it's midnight, so we're gonna kiss." So she gives me a kiss. And then, like, you guys finished the tune at, like, 12:05 or some shit. And then Cassandra's like, "Did I miss it?"
I remember that, yeah.
Oh, man, I was dying laughing. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, man. That was such a vibe. It was the quietest ringing in of the new year ever, man.
That was hilarious.
But just the fact that, like, people were, like, in the Blue Note, like, cheering, like, really quiet. And then you saw like this chaos out on West 3rd Street at the, Fat Black Pussycat.
Yeah,
Club.
yeah.
It was like people were out there like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, dun, 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 dun. Like, so, oh man, it was killing.
That is funny.
On that note, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks everyone. Give it up for Marvin Sewell, episode 21. I hope you enjoyed the interview. That was a lot. I'm probably I'll probably like, put like little time markings of conversation pieces and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah. So thanks everyone for joining and supporting the stream. And yeah, I'll see you in a couple of weeks with Osnoy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Cool.
Cool.
Yeah, bro.
Thank you, bro.
Definitely.